Tuesday. It's Harp Tuesday. This is actually being pre-recorded, so I don't know what Tuesday it is, but it's a Tuesday. And I'm here in the Zagreb Harp Center, surrounded, as you can see, by all sorts of wonderful Kamak harps. So this is the center of the Zagreb Harp Festival, which just had its third edition earlier this year. Some wonderful, wonderful festival, wonderful players, and here I am in the Zagreb Harp Center and doing a Harp Tuesday episode. And actually, I'm going to be doing a couple of Harp Tuesday episodes, filming them. And today, I'm going to talk about Bochsa's Rondo, which is from Samuel Milligan's Medieval to Modern Volume 2, which is a lovely collection of music. So I was trying to find out a little bit more information on this, what Milligan did, where he took this from, which Bochsa piece, and whether he changed this at all. I couldn't find anything online, but let me know if you know more about it. But anyway, this collection, this air and this rondo, I'm going to talk about today the air. And so you just heard that. And lots of great things to talk about on it. So let's start by talking about the left hand and this interesting little pattern that we start out with, right? This very large spacing. And that, of course, is something that you'll come across in some pieces. In particular, I think when you're, say, dealing with harpists with big hands, they'll write all these great, beautiful, stretched chords. And let's see, I'm just going to change the angle, I think, so you can see what my left hand is doing. Just hold on 1 second. All right, this should hopefully give a reasonable view of what I'm going to be talking about. So when we're playing, say, just a normal root position, 1, 3, 5, 8 chord, where we're arpeggiating back and forth, up and down, we're trying to place all the fingers at the same time. But when we're dealing with this big stretched, enormous reach, what we'll often do is instead kind of pivot on the third finger. Obviously, if you want, if I want to play this chord by itself, I can reach everything. I've got nice long fingers. But if I'm doing this as an arpeggiated chord, what I would typically do, right, is starting from the bottom, place 4 and 3, have 2 and 1 be aware that they're going to play. They're not, I don't know, hanging down too far, but they're aware that they are going to go here, but they're not on the strings yet. And as soon as 4 plays, of course, we're in a great position. This, is just a inverted C chord, something we should feel quite comfortable placing. So we're ready to continue. So we're pivoting on that third finger a little bit. And same thing coming down. Fourth finger is outstretched. It's aware of where it's going, but we don't necessarily have to try and reach it at the beginning as we come down, and then before we play the third finger, the fourth finger gets to go down and find that lower C. And of course it holds true for any particular chord, right? When we feel like there's a big stretch, maybe we end up pivoting on that third finger. So just a handy thing to be aware of. I'm going to switch the view back again. So let's continue talking about the left hand. So we've talked about these big stretched out chords. When we're dealing with the normal size chords, I think it is very important here to try as much as possible to be placing 3 at a time. In other words, rather than eventually finding our way down, when we have something like this, we're going to place all 3 fingers, and again all 3 fingers, rather than find the 4th finger, or then find the thumb. And so, in particular, what we want to be aware of is some of the bars where we're changing chords. So maybe we're doing this. Oh, but then it turns out the 4th finger is actually going down to the C, because we've played this G7th, but then we're switching to a C. Or here, we're coming down a C chord, but the 4th finger is on the D to go back to the G7th. Trying to be as efficient as possible in terms of getting as many notes placed at that one time as possible. And what else to talk about on the left hand? I think that's it. So just being aware of the pivoting as you need to, and when you don't, trying to make sure you are placing everything in advance. So lots of great things to talk about here on the right hand. And of course we've got some great octave practice. And what we want to do is try to make this sing as much as possible, right? We've got these long notes, these dotted halves, and it's a fairly slow tempo. And we want to create a really beautiful sound that's going to just keep ringing, and so that instead of feeling as if, you know, that they're short and weak, we want to make sure that it's sustaining into the next note as if we were singing, and thinking about these longer phrases, right? So I'll just talk a moment about that tone, about that idea, right, of putting some extra pressure on the strings before you play, and maybe not using all of it, right? It's not that we have to be really loud, but that difference between kind of finding and playing at one moment, or putting a little bit of weight and trying to draw as beautiful a sound as you can out of that. So being aware of that, and then these longer phrases. So if we look, right, we get and you might think it's over, but oh, actually it's a surprise, we actually modulate into that D. And even then, of course, we still haven't resolved, so that's kind of a one part of a phrase there, but still that longer phrase, we're still waiting to hear it resolve into the C, and then we get kind of this new idea. Oh, sorry. So here, with a slide, of course, making sure the fourth finger is on the string before we slide. So we'll slide the thumb, and then play as normal, and trying to make that slide, make that grace note just as graceful as possible, as gentle as possible. So, sorry, if we go back to this. And again, there's maybe here we're kind of building, and then falling back a little bit. Oops, sorry. Turn this on my iPad. Still not over, right? Still not over. And then we get sort of this filler. And finally, right, this is the last bar of the second page, we finally finished. So in a sense, from the start, right, we can think of this phrase going all the way to that spot on the second page. And so always thinking about, are we kind of building? Are we really, right, getting more intense, or are we backing off a little bit? And just thinking about, again, if you were singing it and sustaining through all those notes. And let's see, let's talk about of course, there's a great spot to practice 2 against 3 at the end of the first page. So we've been playing on the quarter note beats, which is great because the left hand is playing these eighth note triplets. So we have, oh, and then we have 8 notes in the right hand, but they're not triplets. So in other words, there's only going to be 4 of them against 6 of the left hand, or 2 against 3. So if we break it down into groups of 3, right, the triplets in the left hand, is that 1, 2, and 3. So the left hand's doing 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, right? And I think I did an episode talking about 2 against 3 in that rhythm, but you know, it's an easy way to count. We go 1 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1. So of course the F ends up coming with the left hand C, right? They're both on the quarter note beat. And then we keep going. So again, a great spot to practice 3 against 2. And isolate that spot if that's something that is a little confusing or you're having problems with. Let's talk about this little ornamentation that ends this whole long phrase, right? This is again the last bar of the second line of the second page. This. So we can't take too long with that, but we do have a little bit of space because of what's the left hand is not doing anything at the end of the previous bar. So we can almost we can stretch that a fermata or just a sense of time. We have lots of time. So we do have a little bit of time, but we don't want them to be too slow. At the same time, they can't. We want to enjoy each and every one of those little notes. So just making sure you're listening for them and not just kind of glossing over them on the way to that D. So just savoring each and every one of them. Then we get kind of a reprieve of some of the material that we've heard before. And here, they're indicated to be broken. Now, I don't know, again, I wish I knew whether that was something Bochsa had written or whether this was something Samuel Milligan put in. To my ear, I just don't like the sound of arpeggiated octaves. Especially when they happens for so long. Yeah, it just bugs me. So I just play them flat. Up to you. Play around with that, see what you like. We get a little 3 against 2 at the end of that, and then we get this quasi cadenza. So we got this nice chord here, and what do we got here? And here, I wouldn't worry too much about the, like the 16ths and the triplet 16th of band. I think it's more just a sense of one note, following another, that we don't have to have these sound slightly faster than this. I think it's all, I believe it's just been put in here to sort of have the proper number of beats, but really we can think along fermata over the bar, right? And we're just hearing this nice, right hand verses. The only thing to be aware of is we can think 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would probably hear that more as a 5 rather than 2 and then 3. Whatever it is. I probably played the D before I started the drill. Anyway, a neat little cadenza like spot is the quasi cadenza. Then we get a trill, which you can do 2 hands if you want. You could do a very short trill if you want, totally up to you. And finish it off with a nice little harmonic. So there we have Bochsa's Air from Aaron Rondo, and next time I will be talking about the Rondo. So cheers from the Zagreb Harp Center in Zagreb, Croatia.